Hey everybody. You know, a lot of the people I work with, I notice that when they start to work with me, they have this kind of pressure-driven, compulsive, I should do it. There's a kind of fear behind activity. And then when that dissipates, it gives way to a kind of lethargy or almost like a sort of childlike innocence, like I'm going to float around. Neither one really works. And in this little video, I want to show you what I've discovered to bridge that gap, if you can relate to that split. So I've been working with a client who's been running a big company for a long time. And like many people, there's a certain drive to his activity. It took a while for him to relax himself enough to realize that the drive was connected to fear. Fear of not enough, fear of missing out, fear of being inadequate. But this drive had fueled his whole adult life. And he'd been very successful. You know, he'd made money and had a company and a reputation. But there was no rest, there was no peace and no fun in that way of living. So we've been working together now for many months. It took a while to unravel this. And then he fell into, it happened quite suddenly after it kind of built up and then something gave way. And he fell into a kind of childlike innocence where he realized everything's okay. I can just float and everything's all right anyway, which is kind of true, but also not really functional. Because if you take that attitude too much, everything's okay, everything's in the hands of something bigger than my own mind, I can relax and just be carried by the river, that can become, quotes, irresponsible if you have a life set up where you don't have to do anything, that's fine. But if you have obligations and people relying upon you, pretty soon that comes back to bite you in the butt. And the problem then is when that happens, if we fall into a kind of spacious, awake state and then feel everything's okay, when things don't work out because we forget our responsibilities, it can create a crisis, which then creates a kind of judgment in the mind, like it's actually not okay to relax. See what happened? When I really relaxed and trusted everything, all this terrible stuff happened. So here's the alternative that I propose or offer to my clients, and they find their own way of implementing this. The alternative is to go ahead and relax deeply, to really enjoy those spacious states where there's no boundaries in the mind, where your breathing is deep and full, and where you can smell the roses metaphorically and feel the beauty of things. But then to bring in a little element of what St. Francis of Assisi called gentle discipline. Gentle discipline is different than driven discipline. Gentle discipline is like to set aside, maybe I like to do this on a Sunday night, but you can do it any time, to set aside half an hour at the most, where you contemplate, okay, now I'm relaxed, I feel spacious, my body feels good, I feel yummy in my tummy, everything's good, I love my partner, I love my children, everything's lovely. Now, from this spacious, sane, relaxed, humorous state, now we can ask ourselves, what are actually the best things to do today? Now that I'm feeling this good, what's the best way to make use of this feeling good? And you can map out your week that way. From this non-driven, relaxed state, what are the best supplements to take? How much would I like to meditate each day? How long do I want to spend working? Now you can introduce a gentle discipline, but it's coming from relaxation and trust, but you implement discipline. And then during the week, you gently and methodically implement what you've planned. Now this bridges these two states, you see, because you have the relaxation. In the deep relaxation and trust is where you plan the best actions. But you also have the accountability. You also recognize in that spaciousness the wisdom of following through on the things you said you would do and being trustworthy. So try that out. This is actually part of the Radical Brilliance cycle that I wrote this book about, Radical Brilliance. This is really integrating opposing values, you see, integrating deep relaxation and trust and letting go with being accountable and showing up and being a person who keeps their word. Let me know your thoughts on this. It's been helpful for a lot of the people I work with, and I'm hoping might be helpful for you too. See you soon.